one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into those salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community, find the saltiest stories, the saltiest posts, and put them in our mine cart and bring them right back up to you, our dear prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined with my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hey, guys.
What up, what up, what up?
Hey, guys.
And we also have our honored guest host, Nick, with us today. Hey, Nick.
Hey.
Hi.
Highly esteemed.
Highly esteemed. And
Highly steamed.
he's so steamed.
Our steamy guest host.
Steamy
He's
guest
like,
host.
he's just like a little grumpy. He's like, oh, I'm steamed about that.
More like, like a
hot tub
nice
stream.
dumpling.
Like a
Yeah.
steamed ham.
He's
Like
saying
a nice
he's saying he's
dumpling.
dumpy.
Yeah.
A little dumpy. A little dumpy boy.
And Nick is here with us today because we're going to be talking about our time at MTG Summit. This is our recap special. So as
Salt
I always
City,
say,
baby.
if you've never heard this show before and this is your first episode, get out of here. What are you doing? You're doing
Yeah,
it all
you're-
wrong.
You're not welcome.
Go on, get.
This is not an accurate representation of what our content is.
Yeah, you're
Whenever
not
we go to a
welcome.
convention, we like to do these recap episodes. We just kind of talk about our experience, what we did every day, and, shout out all the fun people that we met and cool games that we had.
Yeah, so it's like you can be there with us.
Yeah,
instead.
exactly.
Yeah.
You can,
It's like you went, actually.
yeah.
Basically
were
like
there.
you went,
You
yeah.
actually
Yeah.
were there. You're one of our longest friends.
Some people might be there. Some listeners,
Yeah, some people
potentially
were actually there.
were actually there.
That is
For
fair.
Before we get into our episode, we got to shout out our nice patrons: Hephaestus Bolts, Prime Speaker Florian, Yef Judge, and Accidental TPK. Dude, Yef Judge told me that they were going to send me like a way to pronounce the name correctly, and I don't have it yet. Clearly, at a certain point, I will be
I
pronouncing
think
it
it's better
perfectly.
that you just do it different every time.
Yeah,
and eventually one of them
judge.
will be right.
But thank you for supporting the podcast. Really means a lot, guys.
Fuck yeah.
We love you. Yeah, so we're basically just gonna like ramble through, and that's the show. That's the show today.
Badee, that's all, folks.
So
Yeah.
for people who aren't familiar, MTG Summit was a convention that was held at the end of October in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it was put on by the guys over at Kingdoms TV, which is a gameplay show on YouTube. And this is their second year putting it on. They invited us to be special guests at the convention, which was pretty cool.
Ooh.
And, we'll talk a little bit about what that entailed and how our experience was with that. And yeah, the four of us went and had a good time overall. I think
It was a
we can
blast.
kick it off by saying overall it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
overall,
for
it was
sure.
so fun.
7 out of 10 with rice.
I think it's worth mentioning too that this is only the second year that this convention has happened.
Yeah.
It's like a very new one. Its first year, it like kind of blew up and didn't expect to.
Yep.
Enough that it had a second year. Like it happened again,
Yep.
which is not always something to be said about like large organized events on this scale.
Yeah. Especially pulled together, from like a creator turned TO, basically.
Yeah.
Like event organizer. I don't
Mhm.
even know if TO is really correct, but turned into this event organization thing. And yeah, it's a very interesting convention. It was a little bit on the smaller side. It didn't feel like Commander Sealed because Commander Sealed is so small and intimate.
And so focused kind of in
Yeah,
what
and
it's doing.
hyper-focused on that one event. But it did feel like a mini MagicCon. It felt like a
Mhm.
little MagicCon Philadelphia or a little MagicCon Vegas. Not the same spectacle, but still a pretty decent amount of space and a fair amount of people there.
Yeah, it was significantly chiller than Vegas was, I would say.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the energy level. Not that that's like a bad thing per se, but it was definitely just kind of like turned down a bit.
For sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you had like the door was chill, and like no one was frantically checking registrations. There was no
No
like,
one was ever
security
checking
thing.
registrations
Yeah, it was-
outside of like the first day.
Okay,
Maybe.
fair. I wasn't trying to be.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to blow up their spot, but yes.
Oh man. Well, let's just start chronologically. Let me say that again.
Yeah, how do you say it chronologically?
Chronologically. Let's start chronologically with this one, guys. So let's kick it off with Wednesday when Mike and I had our amazing adventure, our big trip to Salt Lake City.
Yep. It wouldn't have been complete without Sam kind of freaking out on the way to the airport and me like standing in a burrito line, like being like,
Was it because he had to shit, or was
You're gonna
it
be fine. That was definitely related.
I did not have to shit. I did not have to
You had
shit.
to pee really
I did
badly.
have to pee
Yeah, okay.
very badly.
There's still some bathroom
But I
emergency.
kept that to myself.
Well, you let
But
me
Mike-
know. That it was
Mike
in the
knew.
first 5 things you told me, so I can't say you kept it to yourself.
But yeah, so I drove up to Boston, like giving myself so much ample time, and hit literally an hour of traffic, like an additional hour of traffic beyond what I expected. So I got to the airport like what would have been like 40 minutes before the plane boarded. And thankfully, the security line was super fucking fast. I just like blasted through it. Shout out to the awesome security guy. He was like, "Do you have any electronics in your bag?" And I was like, "I have some cards." He was like, "Oh, what kind of cards?" I was like, "Magic the Gathering, and it's some One Piece." And he's like, "Oh, sick. I play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon." And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude. I'm going to a convention right now." And he was like, "Sweet. On you go." And they didn't like pull any of my decks or anything like that.
Oh,
It was
nice.
It was all very chill.
That's huge.
Then our plane got delayed. So all my fucking racing was for literally nothing.
Yep.
Sad day.
And then we did make it on the plane. They were like, "Hey, you got to check your bags because we're
man.
we're going to be out of space." We did
Hate when they
not.
do that
Rip.
There was space.
There's
there was
so much
space,
fucking
but we
space.
Oh,
did check our
nice.
bags.
every time.
Oh,
Yeah,
every
bags.
time.
sad day.
We were forced
Um,
to check the bags.
yeah,
We couldn't,
Well, wait,
we
how
could
long
not
was the delay or the
Well,
first delay?
The delay before boarding was like 45 minutes, but then once we'd boarded and checked our bags and Sam had taken his CPAP out of his bag and stuff,
Thank
we
God.
chilled on the tarmac for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
The classic.
We pulled out of the gate and then they were like, "Hey, so Texas is having some pretty crazy weather," because that's where our connecting flight was.
Yep.
So we can't really go yet. And once we do go, we have like a 10-minute window to go or we're not going at all. And we were like,
Yeah.
Sweet. Good thing we have One Piece
One
TCG
Piece.
to keep us
One
company.
Piece.
Were you guys sitting next to each other at least?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
were like
yeah.
the two
Nice.
happiest people on the plane because we just jammed game after game of One Piece.
Yeah, we did. We were just sitting next to each other playing games.
Were you guys
Yeah.
like talking?
Yeah.
Have you ever played a game of Magic where you don't talk?
No, but I have played the game of being on a plane and like fucking hating the people who are talking when I'm like stuck on a fucking tarmac for an hour and a half.
Yeah, we were like looking at each other's cards and being like, "Wow, that's a very nice card."
Yeah.
Making sure to exclaim as loudly as possible.
With like a little spittle coming out too.
Yeah.
I think I would have lost my shit if I was behind you.
Well,
Yeah. Well, good thing you weren't.
that person could get fucked.
Like
Yeah.
literally. I feel like that's where my East Coast attitude comes out though, because like most people will just not say anything, and I will get to a point where I'm like, I need this to stop. Like, I need silence right now.
I think you
And
meant to
they'd be
say
mad
New
at me.
Jersey attitude, Tony. That's a New Jersey thing.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue. So you had an hour and a half delay on the tarmac.
Yep.
Mhm.
We eventually get to Texas and it is a little after midnight. And that was when we were supposed to get to Salt Lake City originally. And we get to Texas and we're like, wow, there's a lot of people just kind of kicking around the old airport for midnight 30 here.
Yep. They hit us with the old, like, if you're trying to find out about connecting flight information, go to this one gate. So then
Yeah.
we like walk
Gate
down.
25.
We take a little detour. We wait for a tram that we did not need to wait for. And then we take a detour down to the gate that everyone's at. And there's literally like 200 people in a line,
Yeah.
all waiting to
Ooh,
talk to
that's a bad
one
sign.
gate agent at like
Yep.
midnight. And I knew it was bad when they brought out like the cart full of like refreshments.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna be here a
The
while.
sympathy card of like
with like water, like mini hotel sized water bottles and like
Yep.
peanuts and gummy bears. And we're like, all right.
Which were appreciated.
Yeah, I
We
did eat the
like it.
snacks. I was refreshed.
Yeah.
But
This was Dallas, you say?
Yeah, this was in Dallas.
Middle of a hurricane, Dallas.
You know what DFW stands for, right?
Don't fuck with it.
I was gonna say doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, that too.
So we're like waiting in this line, and meanwhile, I get a message on my phone that's like, "Hey, you guys were rebooked. Your flight is tomorrow morning." And we're like, "That sucks. We want to go tonight if we can.
I want to go now."
So then we're like in this line with 200 people. I'm calling hotels. Every hotel in Dallas is booked because this has been happening all day, and every airline is down, and no planes are leaving Texas. Almost as if by fate, there's this dude like sitting on a chair next to us while we're in line, and he's talking very loudly to like his significant other or something on his phone, being like, I called every hotel in the area and they're all booked and no flights are going out tonight, and there's really no reason to be waiting in that big
he was
long
just
line.
like
We were
info dumping everything
Yeah.
we needed to know.
So eventually I'm like, I can't stand in this line anymore. We were in the line for like, it felt like a 40 minutes maybe or a half hour. Mike was entertaining me with memes because he's so good. The One Piece is real.
Can we get much higher?
Okay, so none of the rest of you who are listening will understand this, but Sam and Mike literally have said that like the
That was-
entire fucking weekend.
That was the whole fucking weekend. So if you understand why Tony and I are frustrated about One Piece, now you know.
Like, fuck,
It was just
The
one of those
whole
earworms,
weekend.
like one of
Yeah.
those things that wriggles into your brain at like 2 a.m. when you're kind of delirious waiting in an
it's so
airport
fucking
line, and
funny,
you're like,
man.
I'm gonna decide that this is my personality for the rest of the week.
Yeah. So it would like hit me as just the funniest One Piece meme I've ever seen in my entire life. I like could not stop saying it or watching it. We'll put it in the show notes so you guys can check it out. So anyways, we depart from the line and we're walking back to, I'm like, let's just go to where our gate is tomorrow so we can just wake up tomorrow and like roll onto this plane. Our flight was at like 8 in
It was
the morning.
technically today at that point. Like it was 6
Yeah.
hours in the future, right?
Yeah.
It was not.
So we walk by the 7-Eleven and Mike, eagle-eyed Mike, is like, there are blankets over there. He's like, should we get blankets? I was like, oh man. And they had fucking like a toothbrush, like a little travel toothbrush.
Water. It was like this oasis in the middle
Yeah.
of a hurricane-ridden Dallas.
And eventually we just find a space and try to make it as comfy as possible and set up and sleep and sort of sleep.
As much sleeping as you can do in like a fucking airport on a bench that
Yeah.
like isn't. They're usually designed so that people can't actually lay down on them comfortably because they don't
Literally,
want people to sleep.
It was like, how can we contort our bodies to avoid like these two armchairs? And I was like,
yeah.
but like 2 minutes in, I was like, Sam, I think I've got it.
Yeah.
The bag here, my hip is on this one, my chest is just getting poked a little bit on this one.
Yeah. Mike like cracked the code because the armrests don't fucking move because they don't
Yeah.
want people to lay down on these things. So
Yeah.
it's sort of this moment of being like, do we sleep on the ground? But earlier that day we had seen like a mouse in the airport and I was like, I don't want to be in like nibble range.
Yeah.
And
Nibble
Mike
ring.
Mike figured out how to contort ourselves and have like all of our stuff under there and then the blankets for like a great tent. It worked, man. I even got my CPAP hooked up so I wasn't dying in my sleep. It fucking worked.
Yeah.
I just want to question something here. How could Dallas be hurricane ridden? It's like literally nowhere near the coast. Like it's a good like 300 miles inland of like the coast of Texas. I do not understand. Is this like the world's largest hurricane that no one ever heard about? Like what the fuck?
Well, one, yes, it was a large hurricane.
Yeah.
And two, all I know is that there was water dripping from the roof. So
Yeah.
maybe Dallas just wasn't ready, but
It was
maybe,
like
maybe
down
because
lower.
it's 300 miles inland.
Yeah.
It's not prepared for a hurricane.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of been the situation Texas has been in for a while, where
Yeah,
they keep
that's
getting
true.
hit with fucking crazy weather, and they're like, "Oh, it's not dry." Well,
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll just die.
yeah, I guess we'll just like wait a couple days.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anywho, we wake up the next day, fresh as a daisy, that had been stepped on a few times, and hop on the plane and fucking make it to Salt Lake City. Check into the dope Airbnb that we had and get a little bit of coffee at what was that place called? Foundation Coffee?
District.
District.
District coffee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
District Coffee, which
The
was
best.
right at the edge of our
The
Airbnb.
best.
Yeah, proceeded
Breakfast
to have that
burrito.
every
Yeah.
single day for
Ever.
the rest of the time we were in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Every morning was
like
like,
the
okay.
most convenient thing.
Yeah.
Fucking ruled.
It was literally at the end of the driveway. Like
Yes.
it was in the description of the Airbnb was that, hey, there's this coffee place at the end of the driveway. And that was
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
He was like, "This is how you find the Airbnb."
Yeah,
to
he
this
was like,
coffee
go
place.
down the driveway of the coffee place.
And the Airbnb was fucking dope. It was like really sick.
Yeah, it really
Sometimes you
was.
get a real stinker of an Airbnb like we had in Vegas.
It's one of the most
It was
comfortable
fine.
Airbnb beds I've ever slept in.
Yeah.
It was lacking distinctly though in Simba and Nala love posters.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
Yeah, extremely
I take
true.
it back. Fuck that shit. That place sucked.
So Mike and I like clean ourselves up, try to recharge. Oh, and while we were leaving the airport, this was like the first kind of cool thing for us. There was like a dude with a sign that was like MTG Summit content creators, and Mike was like joking about it. He was like, I wonder if there's going to be a guy with a sign. Wouldn't that be so funny? And I was like, never. And then this dude was just like, hello, I'm the guy with the sign.
Because we saw one person with a sign, like kind of right up against security, like one person with a sign. And then I was joking about that one person. I was like, that would be funny. And then the second person and only other person with a sign was the MTG Summit crew.
Yeah. We carpooled to our Airbnb and we got to meet Chase, Mana Curves, which it was really chill to meet them and just chit chat in the car. And then Giraffe and Nat was also there. So it was just cool to meet up with a couple other creators that we haven't met in person yet and just kind of chit chat and have that connection because we just kept bumping into them the whole weekend and jamming games and shit.
Yep.
Then we finally made it to the con, refreshed ourselves, got over there. We each got our like swag bag full of stuff. One of my favorite things, which is so small, that the guys did, so small but very appreciated, was they asked us all for like what our favorite snack was, and each of our like content creator bags just had like snacks in it. So I asked for wild berry Skittles, and I had already bought Skittles for like my plane ride because I always need some candy on the plane. So I already had this like big ass bag of Skittles, and I was like, well, I should definitely get a lot because I need it for the weekend. And then they gave me a 1 pound bag of Skittles on top of that, which was just the best. And of course, Mike.
I had to get those pistachios.
Mike got pistachios.
What's more insulting is that you weren't going to get pistachios, and then Sam and I had to berate you into getting
I was gonna be
pistachios.
like, I'd like barbecue chips. You guys were like, no, you idiot. Do the thing.
Some all dressed.
Do the bit,
Do
dude.
the bit.
I don't even
Yeah,
remember what
for sure.
Tony got because he fucking didn't share
Got
them.
mini Oreos.
Those
and he
little
didn't share.
Oreos.
Yeah, he didn't share them at all. We were like, what did you get, Tony? He's like, I ate them. Granted, eating a bag of mini Oreos is way better than eating 1 pound of Skittles
Yeah.
yourself.
You did a good job of sharing those though. 'Cause I certainly
I had
partook
to.
in the
Yeah.
Skittles.
Yeah, I had to. I think I would have not made it home.
Your teeth would have fallen out.
Yeah, right.
I feel like something was like awoke in me because like I feel like I never really liked wild berry Skittles, but then I was like, oh shit, these are like pretty good.
Dude, they're fucking really good. As far as I'm considered, they're the best Skittle flavor.
He's considered, ladies and
I feel
gentlemen.
like my favorite was always the old school lime.
Old school lime?
Oh, well, they did away with that for a little bit and then brought it back, which I think was a marketing ploy.
They did, yeah.
They made it green apple. And it's like,
Yeah.
no one likes fucking green apple.
Feels like it's not quite the same, but I don't know. Maybe my childhood taste buds just remember it differently or something, but it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it like what it was. But
That's
I used
life.
to like separate them out. I wouldn't eat the red, never ate the red.
Whoa, you never ate them?
I only would eat the green.
Did you throw them in the trash?
Yellow and orange.
The orange ones were the gross ones.
Did you throw them
Fake-
out?
Fake orange flavor is bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy that this is your last episode on the podcast.
This is how we find out. Yeah.
Yeah, once again proving that Tony's the worst.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just watching a movie on mute and eating only half of the bag of Skittles and throwing the rest in the trash.
Oh, man.
Insane.
So anyway, then I show up to the convention.
Yeah. So Nick, what was your experience walking in there?
it was a little dumb, but that was mostly my own mistake. But also like there was no labeling. So first off, I did not have any of the travel issues that Mike and Sam had. My flight was perfectly smooth. I flew direct Thursday morning, got to Salt Lake City around like 2, I think. Rolled over to the Airbnb, dropped my stuff off, walked over to the convention center. So our Airbnb was only like 2 blocks away from the convention center. And there weren't at this point, because I think because it was Thursday, it was like the first day of the convention and only VIPs and content creators were allowed to like go on Thursday.
Yep.
So there were no signs or anything saying like, hey, this is where you go in to get into the convention. And the convention center was like, it's a like massive convention center. They were only using like a small portion of it, but
Yeah.
it's a very, very large building, probably like 3 or 4 city blocks long easily. And so I, an idiot, walked all the way down to the far end of the convention center and then went inside because the side I was walking down was all like truck docks. So there was no way to get in on that side. And then I like saw some other people like leaving as I was walking in. I was like, oh, where do you go to like actually, go to the convention? She's like, oh, you have to go all the way back to the other side. So I walked all the way back on the inside to the convention center. And turns out it was like literally I passed right by the door without even realizing that was the entrance.
Yeah, it was like the most straight shot possible from where our Airbnb was.
So that mistake was only made once, thankfully. But
yeah, then the 3 of us got in there and you got your swag bag, Nick.
I got my swag bag. I was not special. I had to actually pay to go. So I paid for the VIP commander pass, which in hindsight was not worth it.
Well, you didn't take advantage of any of the events or prizing, right?
No,
because there was like a whole prizing and ticket structure. That
I actually did get we got tickets for doing the cEDH tournament. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, really?
Rip. I did not.
I think overall the convention was very good, but I think like communication could have been a bit better because like there was no real kind of explanation of like what the things you were supposed to do or had or what your benefits were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, also the fucking apps. Why are all these people trying to make apps that are shitty and then like like just don't, guys. Just don't make a shitty app. Don't waste the money doing it.
Yeah.
And like you're not going to use it anyway and no one else is going to use it. It's like if it's trash, it's trash.
I mean, I couldn't even sign into the app because I didn't have like a Kingdoms account because we were creators. So I downloaded it and I was like, what's this app all about? And opened it and it was like sign in. I was like, well,
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. So they had some things like I got a bunch of swag, which I just objectively did not need. It's like 3 fucking play mats. Like the sweatshirt is actually like a nice sweatshirt and like some pins and stuff like that, which was cool. But like,
yeah, I got another fucking thing to collect. The pins. Like I want pins now from everywhere I go. I'm like, somebody give me a fucking pin.
So then the other thing was like you had vouchers to be in the command zone, but it did not seem like anybody gave a shit if you were just hanging out in the command zone at all. So like you paid for extra access that didn't seem warranted or justified. The voucher thing was like if you needed to be paired with people, you could like use the vouchers to get paired. But if you already had a pod, it didn't do any good. So I just kind of cashed mine out for the tickets that they were worth anyway, and then used those to just bump some packets at the end of it. But
you could also just walk around and be like, hey, you 2 people over there want to play a game? And they'd be like, yeah. So there's kind of this like queue for getting paired up into the command zone pods that, like Nick said, was sort of seemed optional. And I will agree, like, granted, on that Thursday, since everybody was either a creator or a VIP, it like made sense that there weren't really barriers to like get into certain sections or sit in certain places. But I never really saw anyone get turned away from the command zone all weekend. And there's like a specific command zone access. And I also saw people who had general admission passes, but had purchased a VIP ticket and like the ticket was only present on their phone through the app, basically. So like there was something like that in the 2-headed giant draft that Mike and I were a part of. So the lines were very blurred, which personally I think is kind of how it should be. But I do feel bad, for people who paid a shit ton of money for that kind of stuff and probably just wanted to chill in the command zone and could have done it with a general admission pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
On Thursday, that's kind of exactly where we went. The 3 of us shot over to the command zone. We bumped into Veggie Wagon and just sat down and jammed a game with Veggie. which was super chill. And then just kind of caught games for the next like few hours in the command zone up until dinner time. Then we bumped into Keithulu, who, if people don't know Keith is like a fantastic card alterist. He does these sort of like 3D impression card alters. So we bumped into him and grabbed some dinner with him and a couple other people, and then jammed some more games that night.
Yeah, don't forget the game with our long-term buddy Travis.
Oh yeah,
the saga of the Glimmer Baron.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So that was gonna be my salty moment of Thursday that I wanted to focus on.
Not all of the travel and all the bullshit from that wasn't salty.
That wasn't salty. That just was
awful.
Yeah, that just sucked major ass. You guys did also have a game with Nat and Dana from EDH Rec that was really cool. And I was just kind of like kicking around while you guys were doing that. Then later on, we bumped into this guy, Travis, who ended up being one of our con buddies for the whole weekend. And kind of had this like funny inside joke that he was somebody that we knew for a super long time. He was just like good at like melding into the group right up from the get-go.
Shout out Travis if you're listening too.
Just one of those folks you meet and you're immediately like, this is great. This person is great.
Yeah.
I want to spend time with them and play more games and joke around. It was great.
So we play this game, and this is like the moment that I got really salty over the course of the weekend. And I think maybe Mike's saltiest moment too.
Yeah.
So I'm playing Togo Keskit. Mike is playing. What are you playing?
Kodama, or no?
My bad Reki deck.
Yeah, his Reki deck that he had just newly made. The other two players don't matter. They can get fucked.
Yeah.
but I'm one of those players.
Who cares what they're playing?
The other is Travis, who we just were saying good things about.
I have a quick tangent. You guys also say get fucked fourth player, and that player is me.
Oh no.
Just saying. Remember the fourth player.
R.I.P.
Fuck you guys.
Commander's supposed to be played 3 players. No. So anyways, we have this interaction where I have a decently built up board with Togo Keskit. I have like some rocks equipped, and I have Gear Report Aether Grid, which costs 2 and a red, and basically says you can tap 2 untapped artifacts you control and deal 1 damage to any target. And then I also have Mayhem Devil out. So whenever anybody sacks something, I can deal 1 damage to any target. So earlier, Mike had played a Kogla. I think it was off of some trigger that Nick had. It was off of a Surdan trigger from Nick's Surdan deck. You had played a Kogla, and it fought something on board and was left with like 2 unmarked damage.
And I very notably did not fight one of Sam's things.
Yep. And you were like,
very
Sam,
notably,
don't kill this. I was like, how much damage is left on Koga? And you're like, if it takes 2 more, it will die, but please don't do that. And if you do, I will send all my shit at you. And I was like, I mean, Kogla's big. This is my moment.
So he did it, of course.
Come on. I had to fucking kill it, man.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So of course I sent everything at Sam. So my turn.
There's one
there.
thing Mike is good for. It's if he says that, if he proclaims like, if you do something, I'm gonna like everything I have is coming at you.
To the
he's got something.
Of my game.
It's not like he's gonna like do one thing.
He answers the mail. He answers the mail every time.
He for sure does.
So I get to my turn. I put a fight spell on the stack with my Glimmer Baron fighting something of Sam's.
Togo.
Okay. And Glimmer Baron can pump itself by sacking a token to get +2/+2.
Yep.
So I had a bunch of tokens. My sacks do an increment of +2/+2, but also trigger Sam's Mayhem Devil. So basically, we get into this little fight where I'm sacking a token, Sam's getting a Mayhem Devil trigger, and then trying to put a little extra damage on top of the trigger before my +2/+2 resolves, so that like a Togo Rock deals damage or an Aether Grid ping deals some damage or something.
Yeah.
Initially, we're like, okay, we kind of both think it's going to be over soon. We're like, okay, well, I'll just invest a little more and then the other person will give up and I'm sure it'll resolve. So we don't start by being super careful and
Because
thoughtful with what triggers are going on the stack.
it's a casual game.
Because it's a casual game.
I mean, who would
There's
have
no way.
expected the most epic stack battle here fighting over a Glimmer Baron trying to kill it? Like,
Yeah.
And the thing was that we were having sack triggers go on the stack and buffs going on the stack and damage going on the stack. And at the end, we had both pretty much just like fucked our boards completely.
Yeah, we just ripped through our
Mike
entire
more than
boards.
me. Mike did rip through
Yeah,
his
but I
whole
had
board.
to do it. Like it was definitely a point where I had invested now in the fight spell and sacking all my tokens
Yeah.
to it. So they needed to go through. Otherwise, I had sacked everything without the fight going through.
And it was just impossible to tell what the actual outcome was. And I basically insisted that I did 1 extra damage, and Mike insisted that Glimmer Baron still had 1 health left after the whole
Yep.
stack resolved. And there's really no way for us to tell in the moment. So we were both really salty. I was very salty. I can't speak for Mike, but I was certainly salty about it.
Well, I was already grumpy because you'd removed my Kogla when you had no business doing so. After I'd given you the goodwill of not fighting one of your things with Kogla.
You should have really pointed out that goodwill, man, because I wasn't aware of
I
it.
did. I said, I'm playing Kogla's coming down. I looked at you. I said, Sam, I'm not going to remove one of your
I don't
things.
know. I couldn't hear you over the Skittles I was chewing. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, that must have been it. That must have been it. So yeah, so basically we got to a point where the stack was probably like 15 activations and triggers and shit deep, and we were just like,
gross.
We'll just call it, because it had taken probably 15 minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes of actual time of us just going through this until we got to the end, and we're like, well, now we don't even know what happened.
Yeah.
We just did so much stuff we don't know.
I just want to say, as an outside observer, it's not that you guys were getting like salty. You were just kind of getting like, first off, because it was Thursday and you guys were still fucking exhausted. There's just
Yeah.
like,
Right. That
like a
keep in mind,
mental-
we'd woken up in an airport that morning.
Right.
Yeah. And also been with each other for the last 12 hours.
Right.
right.
If not 24. I think 24 at that point.
It wasn't so much that there was like, you know, you guys were getting like feisty with each other. It was just a like pure mental anguish of like, really, like, is this happening right now? Just like total like drained of like, I don't fucking know anymore. Here's the deal. We'll both die. It's fine. I just don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, the final concession was at some point during that, I think I had done something to make a treasure,
Mhm.
and that treasure was still in the stack. Mike was basically like, if you also sack that treasure and put the damage on Glimmer Baron, we'll call it square. Basically, Mike sacks all his tokens. I also sack all my tokens, and then we're good, you know? And the Glimmer Baron dies, and Togo doesn't die because the spell gets fizzled, but like we're both in a bad spot.
Yeah.
This is the agreement that we came
We've
to.
heard each other enough.
Yeah.
The cherry on top of this is that Travis, our long-term friend from way back from elementary school, in the beginning of the game had said, hey, do you guys mind if I record this? I'm just like messing around with like some 360 recording. So we actually have the video footage
Yeah.
of the game, and we have not yet gone back and reviewed the footage, but we will be doing that at some point.
Yeah. We probably have to at some point. I do feel like it's just so masochistic to go back.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Mike had a really good idea, which was to take our board state and try to do the stack battle again fresh and sort of like try to recreate it and see what the true outcome would be, and then watch the video and try to like trace our actual stack that we did.
Yeah.
But yep, that was good. And then after that, we crashed hard.
Yep.
Went back to the Airbnb. Tony showed up. We were like, hello, Tony. We are all going to bed.
Well, because I mean, I got in at like, it was like past midnight. I think it was 12:30 or so.
No, it was like
It wasn't that
10:30.
late. It was like,
Really?
it felt
Yeah,
like 12:30.
it felt like forever, but
Oh yeah, well it's because like it was 12:30 back in Boston.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I actually ironically left from Boston because I was in Boston for
Yeah.
work.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, you could just live there
I know, dude.
and you could always fly out of Boston.
Yeah.
So then we hit Friday. Friday was a fresh day. Let me check my notes here. What did we do on Friday?
Got
Oh,
that
Fresh
breakfast
day with fresh
burrito, bro.
vibes.
oh yeah, got the breakfast burrito. We were fired up on the Rito. We fucking had it.
Fired up on that
Rito.
Rito.
Friday was the day where we had all of our like content creator shit scheduled. So it was originally a meet and greet at like 10 a.m. to noon. Then Mike and I were running over to a two-headed giant draft at noon. Then we had like an hour break, and then we were doing the Commander Clash, which was this sort of event where people could play pre-con games against content creators and just like do these pickup games. I think it was that was like a VIP thing.
Yep.
So the meet and greet got rescheduled. Thank God, because I did not want to do shit all day.
Thank God. But at the same time, Sam was freaking out because he was like, they've changed the schedule like a kid, and the schedule's been changed.
The thing was that they moved it to a slot on Saturday where we were all planning to do the cEDH tournament. So I didn't do the cEDH tournament.
No, y'all were planning on doing the cEDH tournament.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I was never planning on doing it.
Yeah, the cEDH players were going to do the cEDH tournament.
Right.
Even I, notable not cEDH player, went and did the tournament.
Dude, you're one now, Nick. You're official, man.
Yeah, you have an entry on EDH top 16.
No, I don't. Not a top 16.
No, not on top 16.
No, you do.
The website top 16. I did not. For clarity for the viewers,
you did not place. You did not place top 16.
But
but you do now show up on the website because they are any entry into a cEDH tournament gets you on there.
Yeah,
so.
gets an official record.
Yep.
So yeah, that was causing me some stress because I was like, when is this going to get moved? You know, we had this thing planned for the meet and greet, and you know, we'll talk about that because it got moved to Saturday. So we eventually resolved that Nick and Mike were going to do the cEDH tournament. Tony and I would cover the meet and greet on Saturday. We would be all good. So anyways, we kick off Friday. Our buddy Tim Gold Sabertooth is there. He had a booth at Summit. So we immediately go over, give Tim a big hug, say hello, and chill with him for a little bit. And Tim was like our home base all weekend. We just kept going back and like chilling hard with Tim.
Tim's a hero.
Yeah, Tim is just the best.
If you haven't met Tim,
legitimately
awesome.
the best.
If you haven't bought so much Gold Sabertooth merch and or tokens and or everything, you should probably spend like your entire next paycheck on just his goods.
But actually,
not a financial advisor, so don't take my advice.
No, it's all going to go up. It's all going to go up. I'm a registered financial advisor.
You should stop. Pull up.
It's a joke. It's a joke, everybody.
It's a joke. He's not serious.
All right, we did it. We made it through that one without a lawsuit.
Got the disclaimer in.
I think the cool thing is that he's got like so much stuff that you can buy like from his site or anything. But if you ever are at a convention and he's there, he will do commissions like that day. I saw him draw a realistic rhino
in 3 minutes
and a goofy rhino in like his like style in literally under 4 minutes. 2 tokens, like gorgeous tokens, like tokens that were fucking sick.
That was so great. This guy comes up and he's like, "Oh, I really like your art style, but I was really looking for some rhino tokens." And Tim's just like, "Dude, I'll draw you rhino tokens right now." And you just fucking did it.
Yeah. It was actually insane.
And they were really good.
They were so good.
That dude is like a legend.
Nuts. Yeah, and we all got shit from Tim. I got a Marath and a Gyruda.
I got a Sisei.
Yeah, I got a Rafine.
Yeah, I got Giada, Mogus, and Neheb.
Hell yeah.
Giada is sick.
And I got a map of New York.
A map of New York?
And a map of New York.
Oh, I forgot he drew that map. That was funny. Yeah.
That was so good. Anyway,
so
Friday,
like I said, it was just kind of like a big day for us to be busy. So the 4 of us did jam a game, and then Mike and I ran off and did our two-headed giant draft, which was really fun. It was an Eldraine draft. We had a really good crew of people there. I'll shout them out real quick. It was Christian and Molly. Our buddy Travis was there with his friend Ryan, Steve, and Morgan. Just a quick little group of 8, but it was super, super fun. Steve and Morgan fucking ran the table and crushed all of us. Steve definitely had a ton of Eldraine knowledge. It was just a really good time. There was a really funny moment when we were sitting down and they were like, yeah, we'll do like a round robin, because then everybody gets to play the famous content creators that you're sitting with. And I was like, please stop. Like, he just kept the judge, who's very kind, just kept saying that we were like celebrities or like famous or something. And I was like, oh my God.
I mean, I'm sure it's part of the script. Like, he's supposed to just say that.
Yeah.
I think any but of the content creators there were like famous.
I was cringing so hard, dude. It was really, really funny. And, you know, all the people we were drafting with were really chill. And like a couple of them were like busting our nuts about it, which was deserved and funny.
Yep.
And we bumped into them like all weekend. You know, I kept bumping into Molly and Steve and Christian throughout like the whole weekend, and obviously we hung out with Travis and Ryan a whole bunch. So that was just a really fun experience, and it was cool to do a two-headed giant draft, especially with Mike because he's good at limited, whereas I'm like super doofy at it. So really, Mike was building 2 decks, and I was just like, yeah, that's a cool card. I was like, is this a good card? He was like, that's a bad card. I was like, yeah, that's a bad card. That's a bad card.
I was just testing you.
It would be like pick 3, and Sam would be looking at like the 2/3 with flying and being like, is this what we want for 4? And I'm like, no. Let's get it on the wheel. that will come back on the wheel.
That is like such a limited specific joke that you just told that I don't even get it.
I
were
got
like, oh man, his pick 3 was of this. It's coming back on the wheel. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And you were saying that shit live to me, and I was just like, yeah, of course, dude. The wheel.
The wheel.
But it was really fun, and we got some
good time.
I got some pretty sick cards out of it, man, because these Eldraine packs have like the interesting enchantments. So I got a Leyline of the Void, a Rest in Peace, which are good, fun stacks pieces that everyone loves.
Yeah, the Eldraine, and they're the cool art for the Eldraine enchantments as well. I think you got a cool Hardened Scales. Maybe that was later.
Oh yeah, I got a good Hardened Scales and a Utopia Sprawl as well, which I play in my Marath deck. So that was pretty dope.
Yep. Hell yeah.
And while we were doing that, you guys played a cEDH game with Kyle Hill and then just kind of kicked around and played other games.
Yeah. So Tony and I snagged a cEDH game with Kyle Hill, famous YouTuber, does a whole bunch of fun science videos and stuff like that on YouTube. Definitely check him out. His whole series on, I forget what he calls it, but it's like a bunch of like nuclear disasters and stuff like that. He does these really cool like expose pieces on those, are really, really cool. So definitely check those out if you've never heard of Kyle Hill, which I would be surprised if you haven't heard of Kyle Hill. Like 20 times as famous as you guys are at least. So.
Oh, way more.
No, it's infinitely more.
He like truly was the celebrity. Like if the judge was like, have fun playing with the celebrity, and it was Kyle Hill, it'd be like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So anyway, Tony and I jammed a cEDH game with him and his friend Nate. Tony on the S tier Selvala, Kyle Hill on the A tier Selvala, the other Selvala, Storm. I was on Animar. Nate was on Timna Kodama, which I hadn't seen in a cEDH. So
it's a sick deck.
It is cool.
It was honestly not a super notable game. There was kind of like one decisive moment, which was Nate had thrown out an early Droneth Magistrate. I had already had Animar out. So
I was going to say there's 2 decisive moments, right? Okay. That a turn 2 Draneth went out before 2 players could get their like engine out.
The linchpin commanders.
Maybe you should play a better deck. Because I was already up and running at that point, so I did not give a shit.
Your turn order was advantageous.
Roll better dice, dude.
Yeah, roll better.
Yeah, roll your dice better. That's true. That's a very true.
So turn 2 Droneth, I had already had Animar out, but it basically shut out both Kyle and Tony from dropping their Selvala sisters. And then the game turning moment of the game, Kyle Hill tried to cast a Beast Within targeting the Droneth, and I deflecting swatted it onto an Esper Sentinel. And that kept both Kyle and Tony out and unable to kind of do anything. And I went off shortly thereafter with some combo stuff.
Love to see it.
Kyle Hill, famous YouTuber, best cEDH deck ever. And Animar is A++. Tony F-. Story of the weekend.
The funniest part about that was, so we're all like sitting, and Mike and I are like, all right, we got to get out of here. We got to go do our event. And you guys saw Kyle Hill, and we're like, we should go play a game with him. And Tony was like, man, I hope he doesn't ask us to play cEDH. And I was like, why? And he's like, because I only have Selvala. And I was like, that's your fault. So like, that is a problem that you created.
That is a you problem.
And you went over, and then you came back, and he's like, oh my God, we got to play cEDH. And you like begrudgingly grabbed Selvala and walked back to the table with shame in your face. It was a great moment, because I was like, yes.
Tony, and of course Tony had prepped too, because he had taken your advice and changed the Selvala deck to be brought up to snuff, right, Tony?
Nothing that they recommended brought Selvala
right.
Right,
at least one card was
there's
good
one
advice.
card that is obviously an auto include that isn't out yet. So yes, we also played a fun casual game.
Couple of them, yeah. Yeah, we played a couple of fun casual games with some fun people. Tony and I did our grudge and entertained various people.
Oh yeah, for
One
sure.
of the guys we were playing, I don't remember what decks we were playing. It might have been. It doesn't.
You were
matter.
playing Neheb. I was
playing
playing
Frodo.
Yeah. And they were on a Lord Windgrace and Giada deck that was very similar to Nick's fucking Giada deck.
Yeah.
Surprise. Almost every Giada deck is similar to that
deck. Anyway, Tony and I, of course, got into a grudge match, and the Lord Windgrace player hadn't heard of the podcast. He was just playing with us randomly. He was very entertained by Tony and I's grudge match. He's like, "Oh yeah, I can see why you guys have a podcast about
salt." Straight up. I wish I remember their names because they were like super chill and super fun.
They were fun. Shout out if you're listening.
That was like almost the theme of the weekend. It felt like we played a bunch of random games, especially I think Nick and I did. We like found a bunch of different random people while they were off doing stuff, and like everyone was just chill. They were just like fun. It was great. Yeah. Personally, I tend to have that experience at cons, at least for me. Like in Vegas, I had that. Here, I felt like I had that. But it's always in the tournaments and things, or like in the organized play, where I feel like I find more like sketchier kinds of things where there's more salt generation. But
yeah, I mean, people just have a different kind of approach to things when there's stakes on the line sometimes.
Trying to fucking win, trying to pub some noobs.
Exactly.
Anyway, what the fuck else happened that day? Anything else?
So later that day we had our creator clash thing, which was basically like grab 2 precons, go jam games, and Mike and Tony paired off. And then I was kind of on my lonesome, and Nick was like, I'll just do my creator clash thing now, because Nick was a VIP. And I was like, sick. So we went and grabbed some precons and sat down, and were joined by another creator, Astral's Flame was his name, and then another guy who I don't remember his name. I apologize. I apologize, mystery man.
Well, our pod was fucking sick.
Yeah, you guys were getting rowdy. You guys were next to us. I kept looking over and being like, what's going on over there?
It was like honestly so fucking fun. Like I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was. And like Mike was like, yo, I want to do it with Tony because we hadn't done anything together like the whole time. And he's like, I need to get the fuck away from Sam. And so then like we picked up our precons and we sat down with my boy Billy and Mike. So another Mike. And
they were real quick. There were so many moments over the weekend, and this happens every time Mike and I travel together or go to a con, where we just get so under each other's skin. Where like there was this moment when we were coming back from Commander Sealed, and I think it describes it so perfectly. Where we're driving and Mike had the light on because he's sorting the One Piece cards. Go listen to that episode where we talk about Sealed. And at one point, I'm just like pestering him so much that he's like, I just have to not look at you for a little while. And he just turned off the light and like turned away from me. And there's so many moments like that this weekend where I would just be like, I just can't look at you right now.
Yeah, we would mime turning the car light off.
Anyways, continue, Tony.
So Billy and Mike were super fun. They both grabbed Shurikai decks.
Yep. Who was not even the face commander. They both did the swap off of the face commander to Shurikai right when we sat down.
It was just like super fun. And I felt like the more we played with them, the more I kept realizing I was like, am I Billy? Did I find myself? Like we just had a lot of like little things about how we like to build decks, and like instantaneously it was turn like 1 or 2. I had a creature out and I swung at Billy for like 1, and he's like, Billy will remember this. And I was like, fuck yeah, he will.
Yeah. And the game was great too. It was like,
it really was. There's like interesting shit happened. Like it was a good time. And both of them were cEDH players playing in the tournament the next day.
I ended up playing against both of them.
Oh, nice.
In separate games. But yeah, sorry, Billy. I stole his cannon with a Gilded Drake and then comboed off. So sorry about that, Billy.
And then won with it. Stole it and then won with it.
Yep, but
now that is salt in an open wound.
Yeah, no.
Because nobody's winning with Savala when they take it from me, you know? Like,
no one's winning with Savala when you keep it.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Bro, you lost to Savala this weekend.
We fucking walked into that.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I think I was eating Skittles when that happened.
Yeah, I don't think I was there for that.
You weren't there for that, actually.
Yeah, you actually weren't there for that. Like, you were still in the tournament.
Yeah, wait a second. Yeah, that's why.
So, our game was pretty fun, Nick. Nothing super remarkable to mention about it. Other than that, I did have a really good time playing the precons.
Yeah, same. My precon was pretty cool. I had the Unhallow deck, which was neat. Casualty. I keep saying causality, but it's like, well, you sack a creature with power 2 or less or something like that, and then you get to create a copy of an instant or sorcery. That precon was pretty fun. It was pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I grabbed the Bright Palm Soul Awakener, which is like Naya +1/+1 counters. So it like felt a little Marathy, but it was more about like combat and doubling counters. And I didn't do too much that game. I basically became a massive threat over the course of the first like 3 turns, and then just did like nothing and kept drawing cards that referenced the planar die, which we weren't playing with. And I was like, cool game. It's like roll the chaos die or whatever. It's like, fuck this, man.
My deck was like the scry deck, but I didn't scry that many times. So it's like
no, yours was like a convoke.
It was a convoke scry
Yeah.
deck. Yeah. And I didn't do either of those things very much.
It's the Jeskai Angel Commander that whenever you convoke a card, you get to scry 2 and then draw.
Yeah.
Scry 2 and then draw a card.
Yeah, but I wasn't convoking anything. Like
you're bad at playing Magic.
Yeah, fucking god.
Also, well, our game was also tainted by me getting a Hullbreaker Horror out at some point, and then just bouncing everything,
which is ridiculous that that's in a precon.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Wasn't that where it originally was? Was in the precon? Wasn't that a precon card?
I think it was in the set.
Oh, okay.
Probably in the
Innistrad set.
Innistrad.
Hullbreaker Horror. Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the that sub theme in Innistrad that's like, ooh, there's spooky big monsters in the water
ice and stuff like
blue
that.
needs something.
Yeah, Thing in the Ice was originally that too.
Here you go, blue.
Yeah. So after that, we just kind of mulled about, and we were basically just killing time until we had this sort of creator party thing that we were going to. And a bunch of people came up to us and said hello. So shout out to Carlos, John, and Andy. Andy's from the Legendary Creatures podcast and bumped into Tony, and we just like totally hit it off with Andy. He was super, super chill.
What was great about it though is it was purely because we were both in the bathroom washing our hands like good citizens. And he just like looked over because I was wearing the Howling Saltmine shirt and kind of gave me a look and then like looked away and then like looked back again. I was like, are we about to make out? This feels like high school all over again. Like, what's going on? And he's like, yo, I love that podcast.
That's the sign. Like, if someone looks at you twice in the men's room, they want to make out with you.
That was Tony's high school experience.
That was my high school experience right there in a bottle. But no, yeah, he was just like, yo, I like listen to your podcast and it's awesome. And I was like, yo, fuck yeah. And it was just great. And he was so chill. Hashtag love Andy.
John was also super, super chill and was like involved in the local cEDH scene. And Carlos was just a sweetheart and kept bumping into us all weekend and saying hello. I also want to shout out Shreven, one of our patrons who was there and was wearing a Blues of Trash Color for Trash People shirt, which felt really cool to see in the wild. And I also want to shout out Accidental TPK, who couldn't make it to the convention, but hung out with us Friday morning. We all got breakfast together and just chilled.
But we all had the thought of like, are we going to murder each other? Like on the way there, we were like, is he going to murder us? And then when we got there, he was like, I wasn't sure if you guys were going to murder me, but
it was real.
Which honestly made more sense, right? 4-on-1. Like, what are you going to do?
What are the odds of 5 serial killers all meeting up?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, this is the long con. We create a podcast, grind away on it for almost a year and a half, try to make it successful, get one patron, and then murder them. That's the long con. That is the long con right there. That was just a moment of like meeting a bunch of people and chatting with them. And we really hit it off with Andy and ended up snagging some games with him on Saturday. And it was really funny because he buried the lead so hard. He came over and he was like, I love your show. And we were chatting about it and stuff like that. And then I forget what he was saying, but he was like, yeah, like when I edit my podcast, I do this. And I was like, you have a podcast? And he's like, oh yeah, I host the Legendary Creatures podcast. I'm like, dude, why didn't you open saying that and being like, hey, I'm a fellow like Magic creator podcaster. Like, let's talk shop about that stuff. So it was really fun just chit chatting about like editing and the recording process and all that kind of shit and kind of comparing notes with Andy. So I appreciated that.
But yeah, to that night, to like the The creator party, soiree, as they say.
The creator party. So it was like fine. It was good. They had food for us. There wasn't any booze, and I was bummed about that.
Super bummed about that.
We gotta pause for a second. Shout out to Alan, a mental misplay who snuck me in.
Sneak you in, dude. You just walked in.
But Alan went and got him a burger, and that was
Alan,
the moment.
I felt real like I'm not supposed to be here. I didn't want to it's like I didn't pay for this food. I didn't want to take anything. And Alan's like, "Do you want a burger?" Like, I'm just gonna get you a burger. Like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. He's like, I'm just gonna get you a burger. And bro got me a burger.
So we chilled, we ate some food, and then we were sort of like, okay, what are we gonna do? And Alan brought his cube. And that was really there's so many highlights of Friday, but that I think was one of the biggest ones for me. Cool. I just love playing Alan's cube. It's a conspiracy cube. It was one of the first cubes that I ever drafted. And I've been able to draft it 4 or 5 times now. And every single time it's a super fun experience. It's just a really well curated cube. And Nick and Tony, this is your first time drafting it ever.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you draft it, the experience is very weird because the cards you're seeing are fucking gas. There's channel, there's Emrakul, there's Kiki Jiki, there's all this crazy shit.
There's also no clear archetype either, which is if you're a shitty drafter like I am and you don't know how to draft period, and that's hey, draft this cube that has basically just a bunch of 2-card combos in it as the cube plus some conspiracy cards. A little bit difficult to draft a deck, let's just say that.
He did thankfully at least give a little bit of he was like, look, there's wild shit in here, and if you see one part of a combo, there's probably the other piece in it too.
Yep.
But I feel like this is true of any cube. The more you play it, the more you understand it, and the better you can kind of be at it. But Nick's totally right. I had no fucking clue what I was doing.
Right.
There's playtest cards in there. There's
there's
so much
cards
weird
in there.
Shit.
The mechanics of drafting the conspiracies and stuff like that themselves is very, very fun. But if you've never drafted conspiracy, capital C conspiracy, the set before, those mechanics are very hard to value from a drafting perspective.
Yeah. Right. It's how do I make a strategy out of these cards?
Yeah.
And the conspiracy cards, there's some that are conspiracies while you play the game, and they do things like you play every card you drafted and you can play basic lands kind of from exile or something. But there's also cards during the draft that say things like take this face up, and at any point you can draft 2 cards from a pack and flip this over. Yeah. So they actually manipulate the way that the draft itself goes, which is also an extra layer of draft intrigue on top of playing.
And there's draft. One where it's everyone gives you their last card.
Yeah. There's some pretty powerful ones.
And the extra pack one that was really cool.
There's a lot of the Lore Seeker pack. So when you get that card, you draft it, and then an additional booster pack is just added in that's full of gas. It's a really, really fun experience to draft. This time I built the most degenerate combo deck I could possibly do, because my pack one pick one was Kiki Jiki, and my second pack had Zealous Conscripts in it, and my third pack had a Felidar Guardian in it.
Oh my god.
And then I got another Felidar in another pack, and then Sneak Attack and Defense of the Heart, and basically every possible way to assemble a 2-card combo. I also got the conspiracy that ties 2 creatures together, so when you cast one creature, you search your library for the other creature. So I connected my 2 Felidars with my Kiki. And then I got Double Stroke, which isn't a jerking off joke. It is a conspiracy that you tie to a specific instant or sorcery, and when you cast it, you copy it. So I had double gambles, and
you are jerking off right now. They're telling us literally your whole fucking deck.
Yeah, because this was fucking
why don't you
sick,
just
dude.
Do a deck tech for us there,
It was fucking sick, and I I just loved playing it. It was up there with the most fun deck I've ever built out of Alan's cube.
I think the other thing of note for the cube is that he really doesn't put a lot of removal in it. So it's kind of who wins first.
Yep.
And so I don't need to say my whole deck because I only need to talk about 2 cards.
You only ever played 2 cards.
Yeah, but I still beat you multiple times.
It's literally the only 2 cards you played.
And Squirrel's Nest. And Mike, I've never seen Mike get so salty. And He was actually salty about it, I think. And it's because he cut my deck every time for me and like magic nut hands me like fucking the 2 cards I need to turn like 2 or 3 each time. I just won.
Magic nut hands be like fucking.
Next time I'm just gonna shuffle the deck because clearly,
yeah. But I mean, one of the advantages of like my deck was that there was a conspiracy card that was like draw a second hand of 7 at the start and keep 1.
Dude, that's fucking that one's really good. Where you're just like,
it's
in my 40 card deck, I'll just look at almost half of it.
Literally. It was super fun. I had a blast doing it and would love to play it again.
We were there very late too. We were there until like midnight or something like that.
Yeah, I think we were there until like a little after midnight and then went back and chilled until like 2. So Saturday's like pretty easy to talk about. Saturday, we roll in pretty late. Nick and Mike have to get ready for the cEDH tournament. And Tony and we had the meet and greet later that day. So he and I like kicked over to a place to get like some batteries because we had an audio recorder we were going to bring with us. And pretty quickly we found out that like the meet and greet things weren't really happening or like was kind of disorganized.
The story of the convention, half the events that were supposed to happen, just like there was no true timetable. Like things were just like launching when they happened. Like,
I was talking to like some of the organizers, some of the guys there, and they're basically saying that like on the first day, pretty much all of the VIPs knocked out the Creator Clash event. It was the first thing they did and really overwhelmed them. And they were thinking that it would kind of be like a steady flow ish over the weekend and had that idea with like a lot of the events. But it just didn't seem like the player mix was quite there. Like even on the VIP day, I heard that there were not enough people to like launch Pioneer events or Modern events because there's like 2 or 3 players, even if that. And everyone just wanted to play Commander, which you don't really need events to be playing unless you're doing like a Commander draft or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it was mostly just like people wanted to jam the Commander Clash and they wanted to sit in the command zone and jam games.
Yeah, because they wanted to get a free fucking pre-con. That was like the most value thing. Like, there was like some gas ones like we talked about. So it's like, you got real value for it.
Even when we did our 2-headed giant event, they like put out the call and were like trying to scramble together an 8-person pod. So I think that was like, there was just a little bit of sort of like, can we get enough people to do this event? Where is this event happening? Like some of that coordination stuff was not quite there. And I don't know like what the gold standard for that is for creators at other conventions. But, for me, a person who is riddled with anxiety and demands order at all times, it was a little
stressful.
Yeah. It was just something to deal with. So we basically get to the convention to find out that there's no meet and greets and that they're just kind of unofficially happening at the same tables where the Commander Clashes are being played. So we sort of were just like, well, I don't think we're going to do one in that case. And we ended up just jamming games.
I do feel a little bit bad for you because you were wanting to do the cEDH tournament and then couldn't do it because of the will they, won't they of meet and greetness.
Yeah, I'm pretty bummed about that, man, because I had taken a lot of time to like tune up my Dawnwaker deck and make sure that all of the cards used official WotC art because, there's like a proxy rule, like proxies were allowed, but they had to look like a real Magic card. So I went through all my decks, all my proxies, like swap things out. So my Dawnwaker deck was really clear and I did some card swaps and tuned it up. So I was like ready for that cEDH tournament. I was definitely bummed I didn't do it. I was kind of glad because I had more time to just like chill. And Tony and I got to spend like the whole Saturday together, catching games with people, hanging out with Tim and just kind of having a good time. But, I would have loved to be in the event with you guys.
Speaking of that event. Sweet. So I played in the event. I know Nick did as well. I was on Sisse. He was on Animar. And 80-minute rounds, which was a surprise to some people. I just kind of show up with the deck that I have and get ready to play. But some people were expecting 90 rounds. Or 90-minute rounds.
90 rounds.
No, but it was a huge turnout. It was like, I think 95, 96 people maybe turned out overall. So in order to really figure out a clean cut down to a top 16, that involves 7 rounds of Swiss. So that's a lot. That's a lot of Commander games. I won't go into too much detail about most of the games, honestly. There were some spicy moments, but I ended up going 2-3-2. So 2 wins, 3 losses, 2 ties, which was in like tied for the 16th slot, but I lost on tie breaks. So didn't quite make it there on day 2. And Nick, you had some awesome games as well, right?
Yeah, I went 3 losses and a draw. I dropped after 4 because there was no way I would do further than that. But I had fun.
One of the interesting things about a tournament, like at a certain point, it's kind of clear whether or not you're still in the running for 16. So you can kind of stop at a certain point.
But you should do it officially and like say that you're dropping.
You need to tell
just
the
not show up for your fucking match.
Yes. And I did have one game where it was a 3-way because the 4th player just didn't show up and did not drop ahead of the match, that's
a bummer.
Kind of annoying. My games were all very good. I felt like, and I won't go into the details of each match, but it was nice to kind of see that I was kind of on par with the rest of like the play quality. Maybe not like, there are certainly like matchups that I didn't know or things that could be improved in my deck building, stuff like that. Because I'm lazy and I'm just kind of running an old list and have not bothered to change it. But at least from a like mechanics perspective, I felt like I was on point in terms of like being very diligent about tracking priority, tracking, action, stuff like that, and kind of being cognizant of what was happening throughout each of the games. So that was good.
That's awesome. And there really are a variety too of the level of kind of clean play that they're going to go for. We talk about it a lot during the show, but it becomes so vitally important because if people aren't doing that, you can get even these little bits of like information that then gets leaked if people are not careful about like priority in order. Like if you have to ask someone if they have any responses, it kind of leaks a little bit that maybe you do. So there's all this stuff that, as long as people are all playing very cleanly, you get to kind of experience this slightly deeper richness to some of the interaction, some of the table talk. And for me, it was my first in-person cEDH tournament. I've played 3 online as well. Very different in person. So much more fun to try and kind of get a read on people based on how they're interacting. Like there's something so different about looking at board states and hands rather than needing to ask people, okay, hands for everybody, or like asking people how much mana is up and stuff like that. But a couple kind of shout out moments from the tournament that I will call out. I mentioned already, but stealing a Kinnan from Billy. We'd had a really fun game with our pre-cons the day before, and then we see each other in the cEDH tournament. I think we were both maybe 1-2 or 1-1-1 or something at that point. I got wheeled into a hand that was like a Gilded Drake, a bunch of mana rocks, and a Dockside. And it was so I got to just steal the Kinnan, play the Dockside, get a few extra treasure, and like very precisely on mana get to go off with an Emil Dockside line and win the table from there. So that was cool. Another win was just like playing through some interaction, getting Selvala going. Agatha's Soul Cauldron was a cool piece. And one of the highlights of the tournament was getting to meet Riley, Riled Up White Kid, on the CISA Discord. They're like one of the really well-known, I would call them like a CISA innovator. They're often one of the people that puts up really good tournament results. They're one of the first people. They're actually a moderator, I believe.
Wow. We love a moderator.
Are they available to fill your
notes.
slot on the podcast? Oh,
no. In round 1, they're actually standing behind me as they had to buy. So I was like making some plays, and they were like, would you like me to give you notes at the end of the game? And I was like, yes, please. So then we got to talk about some of the lines, and I got to defend some of my reasoning because no, that wasn't turned on. Dockside count was only 3. Like all this really super detailed nerdy stuff that you get to do when you have another person that pilots a similar deck to you and all the specifics of.
She's like, why is there a fucking planes in this deck?
Shut up.
A basic land planes?
Don't leak my tech.
Oh man.
The saltiest moment for me in the entire tournament was we were about to go to time. Like it was literally probably a minute or 2 minutes away from the end of the round. And once you go to time, you finish the turn that you're in, and if no one wins, your game is a draw. So we're getting there. I'm there. I have just a Noxious Revival in my hand and a Dockside in my graveyard. It's 0% chance making it back to my turn just on the basis of time, but I have a green mana floating. So I'm like, well, I'll cast my Noxious Revival. Sure, why not? I'll put my Dockside on top in case it freakishly makes it back to my turn. Another player counters it, and then another player resolves a Final Fortune to take an extra turn, and they get the win in that. And no one has interaction because the only piece of interaction available at the table was just used on my Noxious Revival. So that was my biggest sad, because if that loss had been a draw, I would have made it to top 16. So, and in retrospect, that's my salty moment of the tournament. And it taught me like a pretty weird thing that you just don't get when you're playing like normal games. Because in a normal cEDH game, you play to win, right? So you're playing for these lines that aim for the win. In this case, I just needed to not take any actions. That actually was the strongest advantage for me, because it would have pushed me towards the draw rather than...
Especially a Noxious Revival, because you could have just paid 2 life.
I was at like 12. I was like super low life.
Even still,
like a ton or so. But sure, still. But
there was bad at Magic.
There was a green mana floating, Tony. I'd cracked a treasure to stop someone getting a dock set. Anyway.
Yeah, my games, I think, were all pretty good. A couple highlights for me. The best game we had was a Sisei deck. John, who we met earlier, is a Patreon and also one of the main cEDH people in Salt Lake City. He was playing Crick, or Keurig, however you might say it, and then a Calamax deck. John basically ate up all of the time trying to go off with Keurig and ended multiple turns at 1 life and had to pass because he whiffed, like in classic Tony fashion. And the hilarity was that like we kept trying to kill him, and like props to Animar for having proc black, because that was basically the only thing that could kind of swing in and deal damage to him. At one point he passed and had to take a mana crypt trigger to not die, and somehow managed to get the coin flip in his favor and not die. That game ended in a draw. I don't remember the Calamax player's name, but Mike was watching him play, and so we went to time. It was his turn. I, of course, unluckily had all of the combo pieces and was next in line, but didn't get the time to actually cast them. And man, the Calamax player made some very interesting decisions, including deflecting, swatting a Swiftfoot Boots activation onto another creature, just because I don't even know. Mike had like a physical, like guttural reaction to that when it happened. It's just very, very entertaining.
This is right after one of my wins. Both of my wins were like pretty early turns, so they were short games, and then we played just like a for fun game afterwards. So I had played a for fun game, and then was watching over the shoulder of this Calamax player, and they were in a position where they were about to go to turn with a ton of open mana, Chord of Calling, which would be doubled through Calamax, and a deflecting swat for interaction. And they just like goober away this deflecting swat, trying to change the target of a Swiftfoot Boots activation when there's still another mana available for the player that activated the Swiftfoot Boots. So I'm standing there, and it was literally the moment where I had to step away from the table, because I was like, there was no way for me to stop myself from reacting. So I had to go do that not at the table. I was like, oh my God, what are you? What?
Yeah.
There were people of all skill levels playing this.
Yeah, I feel like the big punchline with that was that there was still mana for the Swiftfoot. Like,
yes,
right?
Like,
Like,
immediately just reactivated.
So he swatted it,
right,
and then he was like,
that.
"Sweet, re-equip."
Yeah,
right. That's exactly what happened.
Yes, and no other removal. It wasn't like he needed to prevent the Swiftfoot Boots being on there so that he could remove the creature.
No, he literally said, "Is like, I'm just doing it because I want to, or something, because I have it and I don't know what else I'm going to do with it."
God,
like,
just save it for a rainy day.
Yeah, which might be when you're trying to combo off on your next turn.
Right. The only salty moment I had during the tournament, which is not really salty, but was just like bad breaks because I'm an idiot. My game 2, which was a loss, I had the combo pieces of Animar ready to go. Animar, Kinnan, Najila, and Liberator, which I hadn't played against. Liberator was very interesting. The Liberator player had a Portcullis out most of the game. So Portcullis, basically, like if there's a certain amount of creatures already on the battlefield, any new creature gets exiled under Portcullis. So it's kind of like a giant O-ring. And so one of the creatures that was exiled, I think, under Portcullis was an Aven Mind Sensor. And then the Portcullis got blown up, and then it's under my turn. And I go to tutor for my combo pieces. And then it gets pointed out that there's an Aven Mind Sensor on the battlefield.
Which is the most fucking Nick thing ever.
Well, there were players of all skill levels in this turn.
Fuck you!
How true. How true.
So I looked at the top 4 and failed to find and cried deeply. So,
Rip.
Yep.
I learned something about cEDH this weekend as well, in a casual game that I played, that if you take 10 cards out of your cEDH deck, it doesn't make it casual.
It's still a cEDH
It's
deck.
still a cEDH
It's just a kind of bad cEDH deck.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tim for pub
Shout out
stomping
to
us.
Tim.
I've never had a cheerier pub stomp. It was
Like,
really,
honestly,
really
I was
funny,
so
man.
happy to be stomped, and it's just because like I love him, and it was a super.
It was just so funny
good
because
time.
he was like, "Oh yeah, I have this Tyam deck." He's like, "I got a casual version of it," and I was like, "Oh, sick." You know, me thinking like I have my Marath cEDH deck and I have a casual version of my Marath deck, you know, and they're very, very different. So I was like, cool.
Yeah.
He just loves Tyam. He's playing cEDH. He's playing it casually.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll play my $40 Gyruda deck. This will be cool. And it was not cool, man.
Yeah.
We just got stomped. I think
Once
I
he
cast
started
2 spells.
he started recurring a fucking what is that card?
Yeah, when he had a Ranger Captain of Eos on
Yes.
every single turn, I was like, and like we would do anything, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'll just like bring out and crack a Ranger Captain."
He's actually, you can't cast spells this turn.
Yeah, I
now.
was like, okay, well, I think you're gonna win.
Yeah.
It was really funny. And later on, we were busting his nuts over it, and he was like, "Yeah, sorry guys, I guess I bump stopped you."
Straight up.
I think at this point, Nick, you were out. We played a
we went to a
cEDH
bar.
game. Oh yeah, we went to a bar, got some drinks, which it was nice to have a beer after like 3 days of not having one. That sounded very alcoholic.
Yeah, we're here for you,
But
Sam.
also,
We're here for
Utah's a very dry town.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Literally
just
and
fun to
figuratively.
like chill for a little bit and have some drinks. And after that, I think we all went downtown and grabbed some food with Tim, a few guys from the cEDH tournament, and Travis and Ryan, and just like chilled. And then we were all super exhausted, went back to the Airbnb, and
We're like, we should go to bed.
let's play another game until 2.
But instead did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a
But
game!
no, we
too.
said no. We said we'll play a quick one.
Yeah, we'll
We
play one quick
declared
one,
that it would be quick,
which of
So-
course means it's not
2
gonna be
hours.
But that was the 5 Blightsteel game. Go
That was
listen
the 5
to
Blightsteel.
the
Yeah,
last
it was,
episode
yeah.
to get the recap of that.
Yeah.
And then Sunday came around. Again, we woke up really late. It was like a theme of the whole weekend was that people were like, we should get a game in tomorrow. I'll be at the con at 8 a.m. And I was like, I'm not going to be awake at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, rolling into the con at 10 is what it's all about, man.
I'm a little upset that of all these nights, Sam never mentioned the pillow talk that he and I had whilst gazing into each other's eyes, sharing memes before we went to bed each night.
And just farting so much.
Did you hear that, Mike? Do you hear how Sam betrayed you like that?
Clicks the light off. I'm so glad to not be in there.
Yeah.
I slept with him one night over the week. That was fine. It was
Yeah,
in an airport.
We already slept in the airport together. Yeah, Tony and I did share a room, and it was super fun. Like we would like go to bed and then be like, "Look at this Dragon Ball Z meme," and just
Like literally.
just like back and forth the whole time. So that was super fun. Sunday rolls around, and we got a couple cEDH games in the morning. I think there was a bit of
Yeah, we
debate
played a
whether
bunch
this
with
was
Tim.
Saturday or in the morning. We played with Tim, and then we played one with John, who's one of our patrons, who is the Keurig player that we were talking about, and a local to the Utah cEDH scene. And that was a
super
wicked
cool
fun
list.
game.
Keurig
Yeah.
doesn't work great when there's an Uba mask on the field and he's trying to draw his whole fucking deck.
That was a crazy game. Yeah.
He was
worked
doing
pretty
crazy
well.
shit.
Still worked pretty fucking well, man. Like he
Well,
almost beat us like very
no, for
handily.
sure. It's mostly that the hard pieces becomes like everything becomes much more telegraphed.
And temporary too, right? All those cards just go away.
He like has to cast the stuff then.
Yeah,
But he was definitely popping off. It was sick.
It was
cool
wild.
watching that deck. Maybe want to play that deck again.
Good.
that game I also had Unbound Flourishing, which has been in my Marath deck for like 3 years, and I've only ever cast it, I think, twice. And this is the first time that I've actually ever used it to cast an X spell. So if people don't know what Unbound Flourishing is, it's like a doubler for X cost things. And Marath happens to have an X cost activated ability. So typically it's just used as like a second Hardened Scales effect with like a little bit of extra value. But this time I was able to use it for double tutors, like double Green Sun Zenith and double Court of Calling. And holy fucking shit, man. That's a good card. Putting 2 creatures on the battlefield from your deck feels pretty good.
You won that game, right? Because that was the one where you like showed John the like damage to kill him when he was at like 3 life, and he's like, "Oh,
yeah." John had, of course, flown super close to the sun with the Keurig deck, and I got the Unbound Flourishing out and Marath, which doubles the Marath pings. So, it seems like it'd be maybe 3 damage to face. But it was 6 damage to face, which was enough to kill John.
Well, he's at 7, right? And then he's 1 life to do something. You're like, oh,
he took a damage from his Mana Vault being tapped.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was at 6, and I was like, activate Marath for 2 damage. And he was like, okay. And I was like, and then I'll activate it 2 more times. He's like, oh no.
No, you did it 1 at a time.
Yeah, you definitely did it 1 at a time.
I will do 2 more damage. He's like, not like this, please.
I was just so wary of him having something. I was like, let me do 1 and see what happens, because if he responds, I'll need to like dump it all on. But yeah, it was a good time. And then after that, what did we do after that?
We recorded a podcast.
Yeah, after that we recorded. They had like a pretty sweet little recording area set up in the hotel for us, but it was just fun to record there. We just recorded a regular ass episode and saved the recap episode for now, partially just because Mike was still in the cEDH tournament. So I didn't want to do it without him, but also it was just kind of fun to have a regular episode in that space, all just looking each other right in the face.
No, to be clear, it was Sam and Tony looking at each other in the face, and me looking longingly at an angle. This is the way the mics were set up.
Yeah, the mics had.
I was like staring into Sam's eyes more than when we were sleeping together, which is like fucking saying something.
More than when I was farting for dominance in the bedroom. But it was a really fun time doing that. And then we went back and I think had time for 1 more game.
You did. I was out. I went to the airport after that.
Oh, yeah.
Mike started playing One Piece.
Mike played One Piece with Tim.
The One Piece is real.
I think the best part about that joke was that towards the end of the weekend, Nick and Tony were both kind of saying it just because we had said it so much.
Still haven't seen the meme. I still haven't seen the meme, so I don't actually know what the meme is. Into their brain. I just like.
I was mostly just singing the Kanye song because I like that song.
Yeah, so funny, man. No, I think that's an original song from the meme.
Check that.
So all weekend I'd been trying to get a game with Nat, Giraffe and Nat, because she has I think it's Kellis is the name. It's the new Boros legend. I think it's like Oko's son canonically, if you guys know the card I'm talking about.
Really?
Nope.
Yeah.
Canonically?
Yes.
I don't know the card, let alone
I have no
who
clue
his daddy is.
All I know it is
Kellen.
Daddy chill.
Yeah. Daddy chill. Yeah, Kellen. Kellen is Oko's son. And the card basically has like going on an adventure to tutor an equipment from your library. And then the commander itself has double strike, and the more equipment is on it, it gives a power buff to all your other creatures. So it's a really interesting like Boros equipment Voltron-y deck that also wants to go wide.
Is it interesting? I feel like they all fucking do that shit.
Going wide is pretty rare, I think, for Boros equipment. Boros equipment is usually just like straight up Voltron.
Yeah, there's a couple equipment like Boros equipment commanders that care about multiple equipped creatures, but I would say it's not as popular.
Yeah, I think there's an Akiri that does that as well, where you can draw a shit ton of cards, but a lot of them are usually like a Voltron-centric thing. So anyways, she described it as her Bloodforged Battle Axe deck, and I was like, oh, I also have a deck that basically does that. We just wanted to get a mirror match in all weekend, so we finally did on Sunday. It was me, Nat, Beth, who is Queen of Cardboard on Twitter. She's another creator, and then Alec from the Fairy Conclave podcast. And it was a really fun game. I played Roger Arden, and as that deck usually does, I came out really hot out of the gate. I was like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Bloodthirsty Battle Axe, Rodrak, and felt bad that I was pub stomping. And of course, again, what usually happens with that deck is everybody else caught up and started overwhelming. Somehow made it out of that. I think it was just because Nat was way scarier than my board, because she got Bloodthirsty Battle Axe and just started getting so many with the double strike. And I did end up winning that one with that combo, that Angel combo. But the game ended.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say Godo Helm.
Basically, I mean, it's basically Godo Helm. It's I always forget who it is, like Gisela. I think it's Gisela and
Aurelia, right?
Aurelia.
Yeah, it's Aurelia and Sword of Hearth and Home. So I ended with that, but the game ended with 30 Bloodthirsty Battle Axe on the battlefield, which is pretty great.
Nice. An appropriate amount of battle axes.
It felt good. And that was the last game of the weekend, and then we bounced the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And then I got mad sick on the flight home. And then had to try and pack and move my entire home while like dying.
Yeah. Mike and I got in Monday morning. So we left at like I think our flight took off at like 7 p.m. on Sunday, and we got home at 5 a.m. on Monday. And let me tell you, folks, we did not sleep enough for that. It fucking sucked ass. We barely got to play enough One Piece on our flights and in the airport, man.
Yeah. True.
That was pretty much the weekend. So what do you guys think of the con? Like, what's your overall impression?
I think it was awesome. I love events that are like just a little more low key than some of the full on like Magicons. I think it definitely has aspirations to be one of those. So I think in the future, it may have more people. It may be a little bigger, continue to grow. But I really liked it. I thought the cEDH tournament was really well run. A huge shout out to the judges. They were excellent, really clear, really great to work with, really great even in just game situations, just overall awesome. And tons of cool players in the cEDH community out there in, not quite West Coast, but starting to get over there. So I thought that was all great. And, I've been saying to everyone that has asked me about it so far, it was 4 days of magic in both ways of the word. It was really fun and really, really great games. So
love it.
Fucking nerd.
Tony just swallowed his vomit a little bit after that.
No, his heart fluttered and he didn't know how to handle it.
And he had to cover it with an insult.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I would say that overall, I thought it was definitely a success and fun. I didn't really do any of the organized stuff, but the organized stuff that existed felt like it wasn't that organized. Would probably be my only like downfall. I'd say as far as like the other things, like the cEDH, like their two big tournaments seem like they ran like pretty well. But like a lot of the like side things that were supposed to happen, like I had a draft I was supposed to do. And this is why I say the organization was kind of poor, is because I went to the table where they were setting up things and asked, and the guy was like, I don't really know. Go ask these other people. I went and ask those other people. They're like, we don't really know. And this is supposed to be like my content creator thing where, the hordes of people dying to draft with Tony from the Howling Saltmine, or, they lost that opportunity because it wasn't organized enough.
Well, yeah, there's no one queued for the event. So
I think the other thing that they did well that I liked is they had some interesting vendors there of just like kind of cool stuff. There's this one person who had like this like resin art that was like really sick. There was also these fucking die. Do you know
Die Hard Dice, baby?
Die Hard Dice
trackers from Die Hard Dice are
my fucking god. Sick. I love playing with that fucking thing.
I've been playing with it this whole time.
Yeah, like they're super fun. I highly recommend those die because that life counter is fucking sick. And there's like other people with like cool deck boxes, like these wooden deck boxes and like a bunch of other stuff. It felt like there was enough unique stuff that still is like obviously very appropriate for Magic, but like I didn't see any of that when I was at Magic Fest 30. It felt like that was more quote fine-tuned if it's like it's going to be these artists and these specific like people selling cards, and like it felt like it had like a homey kind of touch to it, almost like a small thing with like a mom and pop kind of shop. It felt like a mom and pop kind of convention, which I liked that vibe, and it was like smaller, which also was like a plus for me because I just wanted to jam games, and that's what I got to do.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Nice. Okay, what do you think, Sam?
Thanks, Nick.
Fuck you. I was pausing to collect my thoughts. I have more thoughts. it was definitely not nearly as flashy as Vegas. And I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of things we didn't talk about, but there was no issues with play space at all.
Oh,
there was plenty of tables. Like you could go basically anywhere and find a place to sit, find a place to play games.
There weren't going to be space issues. Like there was no way. Like they had more space than the amount of people who showed up.
Yeah, by at least double, I would say.
Mm.
The other thing we didn't talk about was like if you were a person who cares about artist access, like that's a place to go to because like there was no lines pretty much for any artist of any significant length the whole time. Because I know when we talked about Magic 30, like that was kind of a pain point. You'd wait in line for like 2 or 3 hours to get to see one artist. And that was kind of your day because you couldn't really do anything else. But here, like, the artists were pretty readily available throughout the whole time. Like at most you're waiting for like 15, 20 minutes for some of the bigger ones. Like I think John Avon was there. He had like a small line, but it was not unreasonable. So I think if that's, something that you care about and the artists that you want to see are going to be there, that was definitely worth it. I kind of already said the piece about like, I don't think the VIP tier was worth it. And I think to your point, Tony, about the events, I think everybody was there to play Commander, basically. Like,
yeah.
You were either there to play Commander or you were specifically there for like a limited tournament event. And that was kind of it.
Yeah. People were either playing limited drafts and like limited events, or they were there playing Commander or like some of the Commander events. There really wasn't much of a presence for Modern or Pioneer, even though I know that those events were happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think like that was just kind of the nature of it. Like, I don't think it was like their fault. I think it was just based off the interest of the people that were there. Like everybody was just kind of there to play Commander. It was cool that like they weren't really like gatekeeping access to the Commander games or the command zone in any meaningful way that I saw, at least. Maybe other people had different experiences with that, but everybody was able to play, and that was cool. I was tired the whole time. That was kind of like my only like negative point. I was like very sleepy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was fun. I would do it again. Oh, did you guys notice that the event took place in a salt city and then it was at the Salt Palace? Don't you guys, isn't your podcast name like something salt something? Isn't that like kind of funny and ironic?
No, that's the wrong podcast.
Never mind then.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Hey Sam, what did you think about it?
I had a really good time. I mean, I thought it was a super, super fun weekend. Played a shit ton of Magic, met a bunch of people, both creators and just people in the community. And, got to hang with my buddy Tim, which is always a fucking good time.
Fucking love Tim.
Yeah, Tim's the shit.
It was so much fun. The event was a little smaller. I think they were hoping that it would be a little bit bigger, but I love a small convention vibe. So selfishly, like I was kind of down with how chill it was. Overall, I had a really, really awesome time. I mean, I think any convention when you can just kind of steep yourself in the community, jam games with people, meet people, and just kind of talk about Magic the whole time and chill. And especially weekend getting to hang out with you guys.
What?
I was very pleased that there just weren't a ton of barriers that like kept Nick from hanging with us while we were doing like creator things. Like we basically get to sync up all of that shit. And, for better or worse, like there just weren't that many barriers, period. Kind of how we talked about it. You could just sort of walk into the command zone and stuff like that. So I dug that. Just from like a pure user experience. It was a good time, man. I mean, I think if they do it again next year, I'd be super interested to see where they go. I know they have some big plans for where it's going to be, and that'll be really cool to see. And, I hope it was a success for those guys too, just because I know it's hard to run big events like that. It's challenging.
For sure. I think one thing I would do differently is I would eat more real food.
Ooh, yeah.
that's like we did so much bad food.
I would eat less Skittles.
That District Coffee breakfast burrito, I left a review there. It was literally the best breakfast burrito I've ever had. And then that's like not ironic. Like I mean that with full sincerity. It was the best breakfast burrito I've ever had.
Have you been to California, bro?
I don't think it'll stand up. That was so fucking good.
No, man. The best breakfast burrito I had was in California, in San Diego.
The best one I've had is in Providence, Rhode Island. Fuck yeah, baby.
Whatever, bro.
Yes.
What seems like fake news.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's not even a real city.
Well,
I mean, you got to do like the thing, right?
That's the ramble, guys.
That's
the
it
end
for
of
our
it.
con wrap up of the year.
Well, we've done a couple this year, but yeah, that's it for the.
I was trying to give you a lead into the fucking thing. Now he's like the salty card of the week. Blah, 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 blah.
I don't think we're doing
Sam.
No, we're not doing
We're
one.
not doing a salty card.
Nope.
No, we're not doing a salty card. I was saying, like,
Tony, I don't know what you're on about, dude. You're
You
off
guys
the mark,
suck.
though.
Tony, could you chill? Can you just chill? You
How did you
fucking
suck so much.
But yeah, it was just a really good time, guys. And thanks for all the prospectors that came out and, talked to us, got tokens from us, just chatted with us and made us feel very special. That really just means a lot to be in the community and kind of have those moments of recognition where people are like, hey, I hear your shit and I like it and I enjoy it. So really appreciate that shit. And before we close out the show, we got to shout out our Salt Packet Plus tier Patreon members. Thanks for the support, guys. We got Rothbox in here, Bobo Fett, Snoranges, and Sam Power Gamer, who isn't me.
Hey, it'd be kind of hilarious if
it was just me
though.
putting my own.
You were just
One of our
Put those
patrons.
numbers up.
Yeah.
It'd be even better because I honestly didn't know. So if you actually were just doing
Oh man. And if you want more Howling Salt Mine content,
smooth transition.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Fucking
I mean,
trash.
this is a bit of a different episode, a bit more rambly. I'm sure we've cut some stuff for time, but if you like this, if you disregarded my initial message where I said don't listen to this fucking episode if you're new, and you listened to this episode, well, hopefully you made it this far. And 2, go listen to some of our other shit. And if you want more Howling Salt Mine, check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have our monthly Extra Salt series. We have our weekly Stray Grains series, putting up 2 to 3 of those a week because we got a lot of them in the hopper, so they're going out. And we also have some higher tiers if you want custom hand-drawn tokens from me or to be part of our monthly token mail club, whatever we're calling it. We'll send you tokens in the mail that I designed and we printed. And it's like a little monthly token club kind of thing. It's fun. It's cool. People like it. If you have a salty story that you want featured on a future episode of The Howling Salt Mine, send it to us at thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com or submit it to us on our website, which is howlingsaltmine.com or thehowlingsaltmine.com. We're inconsistent with the use of so our website is the same way. We also have merchandise on there. You can get some shirts at our bonfire store, like Howling Wizard Salty Gang. We love casting spells. And 1-800-ARE-YOU-FLAPPIN' are up there right now. We also have custom Dragon Shield sleeves on our website as well, so you can take a look at that. If you haven't yet, something that really does help out the podcast is leaving a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app of choice. That really does help people find us naturally. We actually bumped into a bunch of people at Salt Lake City that were like, I'm one of those people that found you through Spotify. And I think because I say this comment every episode, people like to tell me that that's how they found the podcast. So I'm just going to keep saying it, and hopefully it keeps happening. And last but not least, we got to shout him out every episode, our amazing podcast artist, JD Burnett. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, hit him up and get a tattoo from him. He's a really cool guy.
10,000 subscribers are bust.
Fun fact, Chase from Mana Curves, we were talking to them and they were like, oh yeah, you are the guys where your podcast art is the tattooer that I live like 2 blocks away from. And I was like, yes, that's us.
Sick.
So shout out to Chase, who's down in that area and might hit up JD Burnett for a tattoo. Who knows? Well, thanks, everybody. Stay salty. And as always, don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Yeah, you got to get that boom arm, that SM7B just hanging over your setup like a pro. Get that cloud lifter.
What he said.
Yeah.
Get the cloud lifter.
They actually make one.
I'm
They
already
make
on that cloud lifter, dude.
They already make a blowing fat clouds.
I'm deep on that cloud lifter.
They actually make they came out with a new SM7B that no longer needs the extra amp. It has it built in, which is smart.
Suck my balls 7.
Yes, that's what it said. Suck my 7 balls.
Suck my
actually.
7 balls.
Suck my 7 balls. At one point back like Glee Club days, there was a Tony. There's a picture floating around of Tony making funny face, and then we captioned it with just that ass underneath. I'll have to see if I can find that.
Oh, you mean that
Oh.
picture that I have saved on my phone?
I think it's
Oh,
like
I
that
know
I
the
can
one.
bring up right
I've seen
now.
the one, and I wasn't even there when it was taken.
yeah. Oh my fucking
Tony's
god.
Basically that face just in the background. Just
I
Let
love
me
that.
let me go
I
to
love
my
that for
favorites
us.
album on my phone.
I really hate that so much.
Favorite.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
definitely
It's Tony with hair.
Tony
Tony
with
with
hair.
hair. Tony with the good
That
hair.
ass.
A lot of
Sucks.
What a classic.
That is funny.
Like showing up so poorly. Is that better? Oh yeah,
There we
that's
go.
better.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
way better. Way better.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Sam, cut this. Sam, cut this.
Oh, I
Cut
will.
this.
I'm
Sam,
cutting
Sam,
a lot
cut
from
this.
this one.
Sam, leave this in. You suck.
Wow. What a weird way to start the episode, Tony. Why'd you say that right at the beginning of the episode?
What a great bloop that's going to be.
It's gonna be bad. This will be one of the bloopers where in the review Mike is like, that's a pretty weak blooper, and I'm like, you're right, and I cut it.
Just a little bloop.